In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Wednesday night special of America in Black and White. I'm your host, Charles King, and let me tell you guys in the beginning how this show is going to work tonight so we can move forward. Um, First things first is tonight, this is going to be a very loaded episode, and there are some things that, a lot of people are just not comfortable with, but I'm comfortable enough where I can actually speak on some of these things. Some of you might not like this, some of you might. But the thing is, the truth is always going to be the truth. And for me, it's about how this affects not just myself, but everyone in this country, especially those in underserved and marginalized communities. I'm going to start off where I'm going to do a Black history reflection. I'm going to go into a monologue, and then we will get into the show. So, with that being said, I'm going to start with a Black history reflection on a very positive but strong woman that had a lot of influence in our community, and I will never forget the strength that she displayed. This reflection will be on Miss Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm stands as one of the most consequential figures in American political history. Born in Brooklyn to Caribbean immigrant parents, she became the first Black woman elected to the United States Congress in 1968. Her legislative career was defined by advocacy for children, education, women's rights, and economic fairness. In 1972, she made history again as the first Black candidate for a major party's presidential nomination and the first woman to seek the Democratic nomination. Her campaign slogan, unbought and unbossed, reflected her lifelong refusal to be controlled by political machines, special interests, or party pressure. Chisholm's legacy is rooted in courage, the courage to challenge systems, to speak truth in rooms where the truth was unwelcome, and to demand representation long before the nation was ready to provide it. Her example continues to remind Americans that democracy requires participation, persistence, and the willingness to stand alone when necessary. Here in my opening monologue, I just want to say that this is something that reflects not only what Shirley was talking about, but how this affects many, many people. Tonight, we're stepping into a truth that America has never been comfortable facing. When this country is under pressure, economic pressure, political pressure, wartime pressure, the weight doesn't fall evenly. It never has. It falls on the backs of the people who already carry the heaviest load. Black communities, brown communities, immigrant communities, LGBTQ communities, poor and working class families who have been holding this nation together with grit, faith, and resilience. And now, as the US Iran conflict sends shockwaves through our economy, our politics, and our national psyche, we're watching a familiar pattern unfold. Prices rise, jobs disappear, fear spreads, And instead of investing in the communities that need support the most, America reaches for the same old tool it has used for generations: policing. Not opportunity, not relief, not reform, policing. Tonight we're going to talk about why that happens, how it happens, and what it will take to break this cycle once and for all. Because if we're going to talk about safety, then we need to talk about the systems that create insecurity. If we're going to talk about justice, then we need to talk about the policies that undermine it. And if we're going to talk about reform, then we need to talk about power: who has it, who doesn't, and how we reclaim it. This is America in Black and White. Let's get into it. Now, we all know that this past weekend, on Saturday, as a matter of fact, there was a strike in Iran. And with that strike, which was a joint, as the reporting goes, the conflict began with a joint U.S.-Israeli strike that killed Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, in Tehran. This was the opening action that ignited the war. Now, I'm speaking also from a perspective as in being a veteran of the United States Navy. This was totally uncalled for. This is something that definitely was not necessary. This is also what happens when people actually go into other people's countries, lands, to try and control and tell people what they can and cannot do on their land. There is no way that this should have happened. There is no way that that all of us in this country should not be outraged by. And the reason why we should be outraged by this is because ever since Donald Trump has gotten into the White House this time, America has been an unsafe place. And the unsafeness now has gotten even worse because there was no need to go over into Iran and to do any kind of, to shoot any missile to kill their supreme leader. Now, as we get deeper into this, you know, the influences and other things that contributed to this are some things that we all should be outraged by. If you're an American citizen, you should be outraged by this, and you should not stand by and support what is happening right now. Because we all understand what happened in 9/11. And I'm sure that you all remember when they went over into Iraq and did what they did, and the retaliation was catastrophic. Should we expect the same because now you have killed the supreme leader? We're not safe. We're not safe. But what they're doing is, here in our press especially, are they're giving us a bunch of coverall instead of actually covering the direct truth as to what went into this and why this happened. Now, according to reporting, the U.S. offered several justifications: preemptive strike against Iran's missile capabilities, Navy and drone systems, claims that Iran posed an imminent threat to U.S. forces and allies. A separate explanation from Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. acted because Israel was preparing to strike Iran and the U.S. forces would be targeted in the aftermath, so the U.S. moved first. See, these are the kind of lies. These are the kind of games that are being played that makes this country much more unsafe, because they're going in because of someone else. Someone else is telling them what to do. And I'll tell you who is controlling this whole entire thing. And so remember, the DEI hire that actually started this war, you know, how can you take away DEI, but then you want to say that you're the leader of this country, but you make dumb moves like this? You know, this really is a major problem for each and every last one of us. We're already feeling the prices of gas rising. They were already high, but they tried to come down a little bit after taking the oil and gas from Venezuela. But now we're doing this. We're going in and we're actually siding with somebody else without the real support that America has always had. These shifting explanations have been widely noted in reporting. And so what we need to understand is, what does this have to do with Israel? Israel is deeply intertwined in both the planning and the execution. Again, Israel is deeply intertwined in both the planning and the execution of this mission. But America shoots the first missile to kill the Ayatollah. Israel and the U.S. planned the attack for months, tracking Khamenei's movements and coordinating timing. Israel has long viewed Iran as an existential threat, citing its nuclear program and missile development. Israeli leadership publicly stated the goal was to remove Iran's ability to threaten Israel and to create conditions for Iranians to take their fate into their own hands. Some analysts argue the war aligns more closely with Israel's strategic goals than America's. So now think about this. And this is not even, for me, this is a part of foreign policy that I definitely don't agree with, because for one thing, those people that were over in Palestine and over there in that canal, that was their property. That was their land. Israel didn't become an actual state between 1958 and 1968. Okay? That's with the help of America moving Palestine over and taking part of its land to give it to Israel, which were people that came from Germany. They came from Europe. These are not real Israelis that are there that's doing this right now. So this is land that's stolen, but they're taking the opportunity to do what America has done when it came to the U.S. to take this land in the beginning. I don't agree with that. I agree that anybody should live wherever they want to live, but if it's not yours, how can you take it? That's not foreign policy. That is not foreign policy. I'm sorry. But then to also attack Iran because of what you think they're going to do, which they have done nothing. They have done nothing, but you want to go and attack Iran. But America is doing this to back Israel, which its allies are backing away from America. Again, all of this makes us unsafe. This makes us unsafe. Right now, America standing in the world, the global reaction has been intense and divided. Criticism from major powers, China, Russia, and several EU officials say the U.S.-Israeli strike violated international law. The UN Secretary General condemned the escalation and warned of a wider regional war. So now, besides the issues that are here in America, when everything was unfolding with the files of Jeffrey Epstein, now we're going and we're jumping into a war. This is to throw people off, to make people forget about what has happened in the Jeffrey Epstein files. So maybe while this is going on, maybe the files will be released, and those that are continuing to focus on that, which is a good thing, would get the opportunity to get all the information about that and who was involved and all the little nastiness that took place with the trafficking of 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old girls to an island where all these nasty folk that are in politics. These are politicians and people in that top 1% that was doing this nastiness with these little children. So rather than come out with telling the truth about who's the pedophile and who's not, now you want to go and jump in a war and put everybody at risk. Everybody's at risk. So how do we deal with that? How do we deal with that? So the concerns from the allies, European leaders, France, Germany, the UK expressed shock, urged restraint, and criticized Iran's retaliation, but did not endorse the U.S. strike. Oman, the mediator in nuclear talks, and the U.S. was being sucked in, and that the strike undermined diplomacy. So now, with Donald Trump in office, now are we like just supposedly playing bully of the world and don't expect that somebody is not going to just say, I'm going to lay down and let you kill me, take what you want from me? Who let someone come into their house and take stuff out of their house and they're not allowed to do what's necessary to protect themselves? That's not right. I'm sorry, that is not right. And for those that are afraid to say it's not right, that's another problem. Because this ain't about, oh, we're just doing entertainment. What I'm telling you as I get deeper into this is that this is going to have some serious consequences and effects on everybody that's not a part of that top 1%. Everyone. Because you know that when America goes to war, or when there is a war, this is where people stand to make the money that they make. This is how they make all of that money for people like you and I that are trying to live our lives in the best way possible and be as frugal as possible, are not allowed to do that because everything is being put to the point that affordability is the main issue. So there was mixed support. Some allies support U.S. goals in preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons, but few have joined unilaterally or militarily. The UK placed forces on alert but did not participate in the attack. Overall, America's standing is strained, and with many partners urging de-escalation rather than alignment. They know that this is wrong and that this should not have happened. I'm sorry, this should not have happened. And I will say that I can rest assure you that for those that are active duty and those that are veterans like myself, I can honestly believe that the majority would not be supporting a war with Iran. I would not be doing that. And see, this is where our problem gets worse. Because now, as we go down this road, we've got to figure out, one, not only how do we get out of this, but what's going to take place? What can America do now that we have gone this far? You know, you can't say, oops, I'm sorry, I apologize, because you've killed a leader of another country. Earlier, you kidnapped a leader from another country. So, I mean, again, there are some people that probably listen to this that might not like what I'm saying, but the truth is the truth. And you just have to understand that what's right is right. How do you expect to have diplomacy in your country and no one's allowed to come over here and just take stuff and go back to their country, are they? Are they? I mean, because America is for sale. It is for sale, and so it's for sale for to the highest bidder for everything that's being taken place because it's being auctioned off like you would not believe. And of course, we know there's a reason behind that, but at the same time, we better be thinking that's each and every last one of us need to be thinking, how are we going to get through this moment? Because I can tell you, this is not just going to be a moment. This ain't about 1 week, 2 weeks, not even a month. This is going to be a long time. And when I say a long time, I'm not talking about missiles being shot, because, these folk, they believe in what they believe in. And like I said, just like 9/11, when they did what they did then, I hope that nothing like that happens again. But my thing is, why even put our people in that situation? Why put our people in that situation? This is totally uncalled for. And I mean, now you really have to think about survival. Now, Iran did not do not one thing to attack anything here in America. But what they did do and what they are doing is the bases that actually support the US over in that region of the world, they are attacking those bases. Now, again, two wrongs don't make a right, but how can you get upset with someone that's defending themselves? I want to ask that question because I think a lot of people really don't think that these people should defend themselves and that they should just lay down, roll over, and let things happen to them. Now, the media helps to create the firestorm by putting out this fake media talking about these people were killing their people in the street. Now, I want you to think about this because this is the pot calling the kettle black. Because if they were killing their people in the street, what gives America the right to go over there and do what they're doing? Because it happens to black and brown people here in America every day. And nothing's ever done about that. So tell me, where does the right come in that? So when we think about how many allies have pulled back or distanced themselves from this situation, or this is all according to reporting. While no major ally has formally broken with the US, several have refused to join the military action or have publicly criticized it. Germany will not join any anti Iran military action due to capability limits. France and the UK condemned Iran's retaliation, but also criticized the US Israeli strike for bypassing international law. Oman strongly opposed US action and warned it undermines peace efforts. China and Russia condemned the US outright. So, in short, many allies are distancing themselves diplomatically, even if they haven't formally withdrawn from partnership. So, that means that they are refusing to take part in something that they know, for one, is not necessary, is not right, and not willing to put people in their countries at risk for any kind of retaliation. They're not doing it. So are we lone wolfing it now? Is that what we're doing? So the feeling here in America, this is according to, again, reporting. Polling shows Americans are overwhelmingly opposed to this war. 27% support these strikes. The rest of us don't. 27%. 27% support what is happening right now. Definitely out of the majority. Oh man. Support dropped sharply when Americans consider U.S. casualties, rising gas prices, and a prolonged conflict. A prolonged conflict across multiple polls. Most Democrats oppose the war. Republicans are split, with a slightly majority supporting the strikes, but many expressing concerns about casualties and escalation. Independents lean strongly against the war. Public sentiment is marked by confusion, frustration, and fear of another long Middle Eastern conflict. Now, I will say when it comes to myself, I'm an independent. I don't support the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. I don't support either. I really don't. And I can't. I can't and I will not. I'm not for this war. And I will tell you this, I'm more than frustrated, but I know that when it comes to another one of these long struggles, as they call the Middle East, but I call it East Africa because it's Africa, there's going to be a problem. And I just pray for the folk that we have over there that's taking part in this, that they can be safe and that they do come home safe. Because I just don't understand why this is happening. I really don't. And the thing is, it's done illegally, but there's the Congress, that's the Congress and the Senate, well, the House and the Senate. Well, they're controlled by Republicans, and they're not saying anything to Donald Trump. They're not trying to even stop this. But they want to send out this cockamamie story like, oh, we've got to reconvene in the Congress so we can stop this, or we can rein in the powers, but we can put guardrails to keep the president from doing this, that, or the other. Stop this, plain and simple. Just stop it. Just stop it. I don't understand what is it that Donald Trump has got on most of these guys that actually put them in fear. So apparently, if these folk have been in uncompromising positions doing things that they should not do, that he has information on or got proof of, it's a little late for that now. It's a little late for that. It's a little late. Be men. If you're a man, stand up and be a man and tell the truth about what's right and what's wrong. When you can't do that, that means that these folk that have put you in that seat, they need to more than get you out that seat. They need to more than get you out that seat. And actually, as an independent, the thing that makes me squirrely is the fact that for midterm elections, I'm actually at the point that I have to vote for everything that's Democrat to try to change what's happening. That's force in my hand. Oh, I'm definitely going to vote. And for me, there's nothing that's got an R next to it that's good and stands for anything other than the um the worst of what we have here. But I want to talk to you guys about the people and how this affects the people and who's affected more than anyone. Okay. Um, so with this, uh, after the Civil War, economic collapse led to black codes, vagrancy laws, and convict leasing, criminalizing black poverty to rebuild the Southern economy. So let me read that again. After the Civil War, economic collapse led to black codes, vagrancy laws, and, and convict leasing, criminalizing black poverty to rebuild the Southern economy. Now, we're basically in that same construct right now. And this is where we're trying to get to, well, America's trying to get to that point again. And so what that means is that how these illegal immigration laws are taking place, this is to remove those folk that are not US citizens, but allow folk from particular countries that are non-black to take up citizenship for a majority population. That's what's happening. And so we're trying to go back to that point again. We're trying to go back, not we, but they're trying to put us back at that point again. During the Great Depression, Black unemployment was met with surveillance and criminalization, not relief. So I want you to think about that. Folk that couldn't get jobs, folk that had to try to scrunch and scrounge and do what was necessary, they did it. They found a way. They survived. Are we going to go back into something like that again? And again, as I said, this is a truth that has to be faced. A lot of people aren't willing to talk about this, but I am. And I am because I'm more than just a concerned citizen. I am more than just a concerned citizen. The war on drugs turned economic decline into justification for militarized policing and mass incarceration. The war on drugs turned economic decline into justification for militarized policing and mass incarceration. We got signs of that 2 years ago. We got signs of that 2 years ago. All of these things are right before our eyes. But it seems like nobody is actually doing what is necessary to see what's happening and why this is happening. So after 9/11, national fear expanded surveillance of Muslims, Arab, and South Asian communities. Now, with all of the deportations that's going on, that's going to expand, where that's going to include now all people of Black and brown descent. That's where that's going. That's where that's going. So now we're about to get ready for some militarization from policing that's going to be in underserved and marginalized communities. That's going to be, it's going to be horrible. This is going to be horrible. My thing is, what do we do? Because nobody, I mean, Black and brown communities are already over policed. Now it's about to be militarized police. Because as this thing escalates, I mean, these are all excuses in order to come in and to strong arm people in all of our communities to make lives as worse as possible. So, just in a nutshell, America has a long history of responding to economic instability, not with investment, but with enforcement. When the economy shakes, the system tightens its grip on the people it already mistrusts. So that's telling you if you're Black and brown, you're a target. You are a target, a big target. So in that case, I'm saying to each and every last one of you, what is the problem of unification to make life better for every individual? But me in particular, I'm talking about those in underserved and marginalized communities because they're a little bit worse off than a lot of us. And so we need to be doing our thing that's going to make not only these people feel safe, but make sure that our communities are safe. They're safe spaces for people to feel comfortable to roam around and to walk and to do some of the things that they like to do. Instead of being locked in a house 24/7 and having yourself go stir crazy, almost like the COVID situation. Now, when we talk about key points, wartime economics led to cuts in social programs and increases the police budgets. Law and order rhetoric rises during national fear, shifting public money from community support to enforcement. Predictive policing, surveillance tech, and federal and local task force expand under the banner of national security. Poverty becomes criminalized. So there's fines, fees, evictions, and arrests tied to economic struggle. Welcome to the new slavery. Welcome to 1955. Welcome to 1913. Welcome to 1911. That's what this is right here. That's what's happening before our eyes. And we still have people, especially those that look like myself, that are refusing to unite and work together as one. Remember, together we stand, divided we fall. And right now, this message that's being sent is being televised. It's televised, but it's not being received for some strange reason. This message is televised. And this, what I just read to you, is the policy lens, which means this is how today's economic pressure expands policing. Expands policing. And so I'm going to read these points for you again because I'm telling you, this is where we're going and this is what's happening right now. Wartime economics lead to cuts in social programs and increase in police budgets. They did that already where they cut the social net. Okay? But the police budget did increase. When you talk about law and order rhetoric, okay, it's not just rising, okay, because national fear is here, okay? Now, let's start shifting public money from community support to enforcement. So I want you to think about this. Remember when we're in this partial shutdown. Before this partial shutdown of the government, remember the Senate had the House pass a 1.2, I think it was a 1.2 billion or 1.2 trillion dollar bill that actually not only funded part of the government, which was national security, but it also allows for house money to do whatever it needs to be done while this is taking place. Come on now. This is the truth that I'm telling you guys. And this is not about even stoking fear because again, if we work together, we can combat this. But so many people are got that crabs in the barrel syndrome where I don't want this person to have more than I got. I ain't doing this because I'm not going to get anything out of it. That's kind of like what this administration is doing. It's kind of like what they're doing because I don't understand how somebody can can just break laws and take money and get rich while working in the federal government in this way. Going in poor as hell, but about to come out as a billionaire. Mm. Talking about the pot doing what it needs to do. I tell you. Now we're also talking about again, as was talking about, the predictive policing. Now you're gonna have the surveillance tech, federal local task force expanding under the banner of national security. Now, see, that's in the works right now. That's in the works right now as I'm speaking to you guys right now. That's in the works. So I can guarantee you in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have some kind of increase in national security and policing that's going to more than criminalize people that are in underserved and marginalized communities and start arresting people pretty much for no reason but what they say they're going to do. It's basically just like what ICE just did. ICE was the test. ICE was the test. ICE was the test. Poverty becomes criminalized. Fines, fees, evictions, and arrests tied to economic struggle. Okay, you can't pay your bill. We got to come kick you out. But because you didn't pay your bill, I'm going to arrest you because you owe this money. Now, see, what happens, especially down here in the South, as we're talking about building the Southern economy, that was done on the backs of Black people. Not just the whole country, but in particular, the Southern part of the country. Now, if that's happening, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to plan? This war is the start of a real serious terror. So to frame this up, the system isn't malfunctioning. It's functioning exactly as designed. When resources shrink, policing grows. When communities need support, they get surveillance. When people need opportunity, they get control. So that whole thing, take it from you. There's no asking, there's just taking. There's no asking, just taking. So let me tell you guys about the lived experience lens and what communities feel on the ground. Now, the key points to this is you've got increased police presence in neighborhoods already under economic strain, more stops, more searches, more harassment tied to minor infractions, surveillance in public housing, schools, transit, and community spaces. Emotional toll is fear, anxiety, hypervigilance, trauma, and mistrust. Criminalization of survival, tickets, warrants, evictions tied to poverty. So, in each of those key points, let me just tell you this. When they talk about increased police presence in neighborhoods already under economic strain, for those that are in underserved and marginalized communities, already way under resourced. Way under resourced. That is from bad health to everything else. There's nothing there in your community but you trying to survive. And it's going to be increased policing that's going to be coming. It's going to be increased. How do people actually live under conditions like that if you're already struggling and you've got these people that are going to be harassing you? These people are going to be harassing you. You got more stops, more searches, more harassment tied to minor infractions. Okay, you walked across the street and they say you're jaywalking. What that means, you go to jail. And now you just go through, you do this deep search. Anything on them? Yeah, you had this infraction, so you violated this. You're a serial offender, so we got to lock you up for about a year for for a minor infraction. That's how that starts and keeps going and keeps going. So basically, what that is to lock people up to create a military force that's going to have to be used. Surveillance in public housing, schools, transit, and community spaces. Well, I don't know if you guys have noticed or not. Now, everywhere you go, there are cameras everywhere. And now, if you haven't noticed, you should be noticing here in the next couple of months how you're going to find folk out here working on what they call power poles and lines, where they're actually sticking up these cameras everywhere in every little nook and cranny because they've got to find out where you are and what you're doing. Now, we're talking about the emotional toll. The emotional toll, which is fear, anxiety, and hypervigilance, trauma, and mistrust. Now, people are already going to be in fear. The anxiety is, am I next? The hypervigilance are those people that like to run around here and act like they are the police, where they feel like they can do citizens arrest and they can get you pretty much get to charge you on anything. Call the police and say, yeah, this is what he was doing. Now, what gives them the right to do that? Well, they could do that anyway, but I mean, that's going to turn up. And when we talk about the trauma and the mistrust, if there's already mistrust, that's what's led to the actual surveillance. So the trauma is going to be knowing that you're not going to actually have the opportunity to defend yourself against what someone is saying about you. And when the criminalizing of survival, that's tickets, wars, evictions that are tied to poverty, that right there is telling you right there that, by you surviving and trying to do the things you need to do, these are the kind of things that are going to start happening. So, from an overall perspective, for marginalized communities, policing isn't an abstract policy, it's a daily reality. It shapes how people move, how they speak, how they live, and how safe they feel in their own neighborhoods. We should not have to be at this point. These are some of the after effects of what's happening, how they're going to happen, but what we all should be planning for right now. Few days now into this, we need to start planning. We need to start planning. Now, in order to have real change, from systemic reforms, what it requires. Let me tell you, it requires a shift from punishment to investment, housing, jobs, mental health, and youth programs. Redesign accountability, independent oversight, data transparency, ending arrest based on incentives, decriminalize poverty, end fines and fees, traps, remove police from one violent issue, shrink the footprint of policing, alternative responders, restorative justice, community based safety, put power in the hands of the people most harmed, community, community budgeting, local leadership, and legal empowerment. So, with that, we're talking about when we shift from punishment, that means that we're going to add resources. There need to be more resources added especially to marginalized and underserved communities, because despite the jobs that these people have, they might not be, $100 and $200,000 a year jobs, but people have to survive and they have to do what's necessary. So we have to give more resources like that. Employers got to get better with what they're doing. When we talk about redesign accountability, when we say independent oversight, data transparency, ending arrest based incentives, there's no incentives for how many people you give a ticket. Take that away. There's no incentive for how many black people you can arrest, how many black men you arrest, how many black men have you killed. Take that away. Decriminalize poverty. End fines and fees, traps, remove police from nonviolent issues. You see, that's when it goes so far that it's escalated. Everything gets escalated. And it's escalated for the wrong reason. We need to stop doing that. And so as we restrict the policing, the footprint of policing that is, and put power in the hands of the people that are in these areas that can actually lead them. That's what should be done, where you put the resources there to make things better. And so, from an overall perspective for this, I just want you guys to know that reform isn't about making policing kinder. It's about making communities stronger. It's about shifting power, shifting resources, and shifting the definition of safety from control to opportunity. Now, as we've gone through that, I want to tell you guys, I honestly, you know, and the love that I have for this country because I actually served it and I served it honorably. I got to tell you, I think each and every veteran out there has done the same thing. Well, most of us have. There's some that's been dishonorably discharged, but still, I think for those that have served this country, you should have a say in how this works. This should not be about people that have never served this country, but were put in place because people in that top 1% have bought these people to go out to sell a beautiful, beautiful story that would have you elect them and put them in office. We need to get away from that. We need to start working within all of our communities where we need to make sure that we've got somebody that's actually leading and doing some things in all of our various communities. As Shirley Chisholm said, that's not bought and it's not bossed. If you're unbought and unbossed, that creates a problem for that top 1% because that means they cannot control you. They cannot tell you what you can, what you will do, and how you will do it. And stop this thing with taking people's land and property and all of these other things because you feel like you are justifiably entitled to that. No, that don't work. I think you start running around here and you're taking people's property because you're saying you can. That's a problem. That's a major problem. And what I will tell you is that I know myself, and I'm quite sure a lot of people are not standing for that. Because just on principle alone, if I have not done anything to violate any rule or any law, what's the justification of coming to my house and telling me that you're going to seize my property? Why? When you're black and brown, they feel like they don't have to give you an answer. So this is just this is like just truly a crazy thing that's waiting to happen, which I think each and every individual has got their rights as to how they feel and what they say. That's your right. Like, this is my right to tell you what is being reported and how this looks when it comes to communities. This is my right to tell you. This is what I would do to tell you, regardless of the case. I can tell you this way, or I can write about it. Which one would you feel most comfortable with? Me telling you or writing it? You shouldn't be comfortable with either. You shouldn't be comfortable with either because neither of them were meant to make you feel better. Hmm. Well, I will say before I do my closing monologue, I want to say this for each and every individual that's watching on any of our channels. I want to ask you if you would please support us by subscribing and enabling all notifications. I will hope that you will do that for us. And I will say that, I want you guys to make sure that you're paying attention as to what's happening because you've got to be strategic, not only in what you're seeing, but what you're hearing, because you're going to have that ability to critically think. So, as far as my closing monologue, I want you to know I call this the courage to build what we've never had. As we close tonight, I want to leave you with this truth. Systems don't change because they're broken. Systems change because people demand something better. And right now, in the middle of a war that's shaking economies and stirring fear, we have a choice to make. We can let the old cycle repeat, more policing, more surveillance, more punishment for the people who already carry the weight of this nation. Or we can decide that this time we will not let fear write the policy. We will not let pressure justify oppression. We will not let war become an excuse to abandon justice and home. Systemic reform is not a dream, it's a decision. It's a commitment to invest in people instead of punishing them, to build safety instead of enforcing silence, to create opportunity instead of criminalizing struggle. And it starts with us naming the truth, challenging the narrative, and refusing to accept system that harms the very communities that have always held America together. Because of this country, because if this country is ever going to live up to its promise, then the people who have been pushed to the margins must finally be moved to the center of the conversation, the policy, and the power. This is American Black and White. I'm your host, Charles King, and we're just getting started because I will see you guys again tomorrow for another great show. And please, I hope you guys come watch, join us, and learn of the great things that's happening here on America in Black and White. Have a good night.